basically, when we are in meditation, those bodily sensations such as heat, cold, tautness, tightness, softness, or maybe you feel pricking, painful sensation, those are the bodily sensation, the kaya nupassana. Whereas if it results in you liking it, disliking it, or maybe indifference to it, those liking it, disliking it, those feeling is Vedananupassana. So of course, if you note the pain, for example, but you do not have any likes or delight in it, then maybe the pain is just there, but you just don't feel it.
So what is the pain? Is the pain kaya or Vedana?
The pain itself, if you see it, is actually kaya.
Kaya is pain.
Kaya. But if you feel something towards it, like it or dislike it, then
it's Vedana.
Then it's Vedana.
Okay. You all agree with that?
For me, pain is Vedana. Okay, the physical sensation that you feel, maybe when you sit for too long, you get numb or you feel pain. That is kaya lah. That one is an element. But in fact, there is no pain or no pain or no. No, actually, there is pain. Because there is kaya vedana, which is pain, okay? But the liking and disliking itself is not feeling. It's more to sanya, more to perception, how we perceive it, whether we like it or dislike it. Just now in our discussion, we said, if you meditate, if your mind is calm enough, even though this feeling supposed to be painful, become pleasant. Because you can sit really long observing so-called the pain, and the calmness and happiness arise out of observing this physical sensation, which is and also for the bodily contemplation, I'm thinking about this 32 parts of the body. If you are doing these 32 parts of the body, maybe you feel disgusted. Okay, so this observation of the 32 parts of the body is, of course, is kaya nupassana. But the disgusted, of course, is a mental state. But the feeling come out from this disgusted feeling, it will be unpleasant feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think in meditation, it's also important for us to see the difference between the kaya, the feeling, and especially our perception. Because as now Bhante also said that perception and feeling always come together.
So it seems that you are combining the two now, perception and feeling. Yeah? Okay, anyway, anyone else has anything to say? Okay, let me comment down before we go on to the next section. When you are watching your bodily sensations, okay, when you start to sit, the bodily sensations are already there, right or not? For example, right now, if you are aware of your buttocks in contact with your seat, you will know that there are sensations there, right? But after you sit there and not moving for some time, the sensations will get stronger and stronger. Right? Now, the hardness is there, but it gets harder and harder and harder. And then at that point of time, then it becomes Vedana, becomes more, like I said earlier, according to Abhidhamma, the body consciousness has two types of Vedana, either Sukha or Dukkha. So initially, when you can bear with it, it's Sukha, right? It's comfortable. Then after some time, it becomes uncomfortable. All right? But that is only the body consciousness. The hardness is there. The hardness has increased in intensity. If you are watching the hardness increasing in intensity, that's kaya nupassana. When you are aware of the unpleasant feeling, that's Vedananupassana. Okay, that's connected with the body. Right, and then your mind reacts to it. Your mind doesn't like that feeling. Then that, together with that mental state of disliking, there arises a feeling which is unpleasant. Okay, so that is a mental unpleasant feeling that has resulted as a reaction to the bodily unpleasant feeling. Can you see that? That's why in one sutta called the Salla Sutta, the Buddha talks about, gave a simile of a dart or an arrow. You know, if a marksman were to shoot an arrow at the bullseye, and then he follows that immediately by another arrow that penetrates the same spot, that's a double arrow. And he says, he uses that simile to describe the practice of an uninstructed worldling and that of an instructed disciple of the Noble One. For an uninstructed or uninformed worldling, he would normally react to painful bodily sensations negatively in the mind. Right? Not, for example, if you step upon a thorn, you'll feel very painful. Yeah? For normal people, they will feel angry over the pain, and they might even blame themselves. How can I be so careless? Why didn't I look properly? Regret and anger, and say that somebody should have cleaned the road. Why didn't they clean the road? Always blaming somebody. Okay, so there is a lot of reactions following that simple physical painful sensation, right? All these mental reactions following that painful physical reaction, sensation, are additional. They are compounded feelings. That is how the mind of an uninformed or uninstructed worldling works. But the mind of an instructed or informed disciple of the Noble One will not react negatively to that pain. When there's a painful bodily feeling, the mind is able to stay composed and observe it without reacting to it in a negative way. Which means to say there's no mental unpleasant feeling as a result of physical unpleasant feeling. Okay? Now this is something that arahants, anagamis and arahants, this is the part of the nature of an arahant or an anagami. They have no longer any mental displeasure. Right? So for an anagami or an arahant, when they get terminal cancer and they suffer a lot physically, there is no mental pain. Right? Whereas for people who have not reached those stages, even a Sotapan and a Sakadagami, if they are not properly trained in their meditation, not well developed in their meditation, they could still react, to physical pain. So when you're watching pain in your meditation, to repeat, first of all, it is just physical sensations. When physical sensations like hardness or heat are bearable, you don't look at them in terms of pain. They are just physical sensations. Then later, when the hardness becomes unbearably hard, or the heat, coagulates into a lump and it's like poking you, then at that point of time, you label it as pain and you dislike it. Right? If you don't dislike it, but you know that it's a painful sensation, you step back and you can look at it, then there's only the physical painful sensation, but there's no mental painful feeling. Okay, can you understand? So it's a very fine line, when you really do your meditation, when you come to pain next time, look very closely. Are you looking at pain? Are you doing Kayanupassana or are you doing Vedananupassana? You can see that the mind actually flips from one to another. Sometimes it's just watching the sensations, sometimes it's watching the pain in the body, and sometimes it's watching the reaction in the mind. Sometimes when you see the reaction in the mind, you're able to step back and let go, and then you go back to the body, and you're going back between sensation and painful feeling, sensation, painful feeling. Yeah, and you may come to such a point whereby you don't even label it as a painful feeling anymore. As our brother said just now, it's also due to perception. Yeah, if it's something you don't like, you say it's painful. Okay, so you might go beyond that perception and just see feeling as feeling and sensation as sensation. Okay?
I have a question just for curiosity, because based on the classification, you said the other four senses door, the eyes, ears, it will be like the feelings arise because of the context of the eyes. Okay, so I would say it's something conditioned. This seeing conditions. Of course, there is perception, the unpleasant or pleasant feelings to arise. But for the physical feeling, the kaya vedana that you said, it looks to me like it's not. It's like intrinsic in the physical sensation itself. So it's like inseparable, cannot be separated. The physical sensation and the painful feeling, it's like cannot be separated. It's not born because of this.
Yeah, but that's based on your own perception that feelings connected with the four senses are due to perception. That's what you feel. But according to the Abhidhamma, it says that every consciousness has got Vedana and Sanya. All right, and that Vedana that arises together with any of the four sense consciousness is intrinsic. It's intrinsic and is not due to your perception. Although it may sound like it's due to the perception in the way it's phrased. Because in Pali it says, Chakku sampassaja vedana. Vedana born of contact with the eye. Born of eye contact. Yeah? But in the same way, you could also say that consciousness, eye consciousness, arises out of chakku sampassa. It arises out of contact. When the eye comes into contact with the eye, with the visual object, then consciousness arises. And contact in the suttas means the confluence of the three. It's not that the eye is one thing, then the eye object is another, and then contact is another, and then eye consciousness is another. No. When the eye comes into contact with the eye object, then eye consciousness arises, and the three of them is called contact. Right? I don't know whether you can picture that, because it is not linear. It's not a linear idea. Can you picture that? The confluence of the three is called contact itself. Yeah, and according to Abhidhamma, it's intrinsic, just like body. Body is intrinsic, but each one of us has his or her own level, or his or her own threshold level. Yeah, sometimes some people can sit for half an hour without shifting their posture, without feeling any pain, whereas some people after 15 minutes will start to feel uncomfortable already. So that one is also very personal. I don't know whether that answers your question. My understanding is that it does not really depend on your sanya. We will come to this later also when we touch on Madhu Pindika Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, where the Buddha talks about how feeling and perception and thoughts are related to this contact between the senses and their objects and consciousness.